Okay, so today we're going to have a look at aesthetics, and you might already know that aesthetics has a lot to do with the visual appearance or the way that something looks. But in actual fact, aesthetics affects all of the senses, and so the way that we interact with the product and the way that it interacts with us as affecting our senses is very important. The easiest way to do this is to maybe have a look at a comparison between two products. So over here I've got a Barcelona chair. It's stainless steel framed with leather padded seat, and over here I've got a cotton uh, seat with laminated wood frame from IKEA. So the first thing we want to do is have a look at vision, the visual impact that the chairs have on the user. So the words that we're going to use to describe that are here. We've got the shape of the two chairs. We've got the colour of the two chairs. Obviously, there's a contrast here between the two because the colour is dark here, the colour is light here. The shape, uh, although similar in the back and the position of the seat, the shape of the actual frame is very, very different. The pattern on the chair, this one's got a rectangular studded button pattern. This one has very little pattern, unless it had a cotton that had a pattern printed onto it. The lines of the chair, this one's got very, very smooth lines. This one's got more rectangular lines. Texture, this one's very smooth leather. This one, of course, is a rough cotton linen. The visual weight, how much each of the chairs looks or appears to weigh. Balance of the chair in terms of its width, its height, its depth. Scale of the two chairs, whether or not it would fit into an environment. And the movement, that's more like the dynamics of the chair, whether or not the chair looks like it's moving. The second sense that we're going to look at is touch. And the words to describe touch, because we interact with the chairs by touching them, are texture. Again, we get a feeling of the two chairs. Smooth leather, rough cotton. Shape of the touch, the weight of the touch, whether or not it gives comfort. The temperature is important here because the leather, of course, would be cold, as would the steel. There's a warmth associated with the wood and the cotton. Next one we're going to look at is the smell. It might not be totally appropriate unless you've got an association with leather and the smell of leather. It can trigger emotions in some people. Whether or not the strong smell, whether or not the sweetness of the smell, whether or not it gives you any pleasantness, or whether you get any pleasure from the sensation of smell interacting with the product. Now, the two senses which probably don't affect the chairs, but we're going to mention them anyway, is hearing. Those people associated with music would understand most of these. Whether or not the loudness or the pitch is important, whether there's a rhythmical beat, repetition of um, sounds, whether there's a melody associated with the product, whether there's some kind of pattern or just noise associated with the interaction. I suppose the only noise we might get is if we were to sit down on the Barcelona chair as the air escapes out of the leather padded seat. That might actually be an unpleasant experience for people sitting down in a waiting room of a doctor's, especially if it sounded rude in any way. And the last, which probably doesn't have any association with this product, is the taste, whether or not there's a taste associated with the product. So again, similar to smell, whether the strength of the taste is important, whether it's a sweet or sour taste, and whether there's any texture to the taste. So when you put something in your mouth and crunch on it, whether or not it's smooth, rough, coarse, gritty, the texture of what you interact with in your mouth is also important. But aesthetics, really, if you just want the marks, is associated with the visual impact, and these are the words that you need to use in describing the aesthetics of any product in any question. Okay, and that is aesthetics for today.